Dinesh D'Souza ran afoul of some campaign finance laws. A friend of his, Wendy Long, running for U.S. Senate in New York, he arranged for $20,000 in donation. He paid the donors back, which allowed Dinesh to exceed the $5,000 limit for individual donors. So we don't even know how this even came out. I mean, how did the government even know this? This is like this kind of stuff. Hello, George Soros. This kind of stuff happens all the time. That doesn't excuse it. I'm not saying that it should, and I'm not saying that Dinesh D'Souza shouldn't pay the price for, whatever happened. You break the law, you pay the price. He pleaded guilty. Now, we were having a conversation earlier today. Why'd you plead guilty? Because you really can't prove it. Unless you're saying this is what I did, why would you plead guilty? Because it really kind of goes to intent. I think the intent here is for Dinesh to tell the truth. Yesterday, federal prosecutors asked for 10 to 16 months in prison because he pleaded guilty. He's now a convicted felon. Yesterday, he went before a Bill Clinton-appointed judge, and his sentence was handed down. And Dinesh D'Souza is with us now to talk about that sentence and talk about, what happened. Hello, Dinesh. How are you, sir?
Hey, Glenn. It's Dinesh, and I'm great to be on the show, and I've got a very happy look on my face right now.
Well, you got 5 years of probation. You're going to live in a community confinement center in San Diego. What is a community confinement center?
I'm not even really sure. I think it's a place where it's a place where you do community service and you stay overnight. I mean, I'm free to come and go. I'm free to work normally. I'll be able to write. I'll be able to speak. I'll be able to make films.
Why do they give you therapeutic counseling? What is that for?
Well, the judge throughout this very remarkable and very suspenseful kind of hearing yesterday, he kept scratching his head and he kept saying, well, you're such a successful guy. You've worked in the White House. You've been a scholar and written all these books and made movies. He said, I don't understand why you would do this. And I tried to say why I did it. I said, listen, Judge, I'm an immigrant. I left my family behind and all my friends. I came to America, and when I was at Dartmouth, I had a group of people very close to me who became, in a sense, more than friends. They almost became surrogate family to me. One of them was Wendy Long, and then 25 years later, she runs for the U.S. Senate, and I did this carelessly, foolishly, but I was trying to help her. I had no corrupt motive. I wasn't looking for an appointment. In fact, she didn't even know that I was putting in this extra money into her campaign. So she was not even aware of it. So I wasn't trying to do anything corrupt in any way. And that's why I did it, though. And so anyway, at the end of the day, I think he thought counseling could help me, and I suppose I can't be harmed by it, so I'm happy to do it.
Wow. So, Dinesh, how did they find out about this? I mean, what you did then, essentially, was you gave somebody $5,000, right?
No.
You already gave your legal limit, and then you distributed other $5,000 sums to other people, right, so that they could then contribute to her campaign.
Right. I actually exceeded the campaign finance limit by $20,000 because
right.
two people can give $10,000, and I convinced two couples to really give, and then I reimburse them. So
now, how do they know?
Was the government?
That's what I want to get to. How
did they know that?
Well, this was a great puzzle because the Obama administration is insisting that they aren't targeting me. They say that we're not selectively prosecuting this guy. So some guy from the FBI was quoted in the paper saying this was, quote, a routine audit. But interestingly, Glenn, it's a routine audit that produced a single offender, me. And yesterday my lawyer stood up and told the judge, he says, Your Honor, there is not one man in the United States, one person who has done what Dinesh D'Souza did, who's sitting in prison. And yet here's a government that wants to imprison this guy for over a year, 10 to 16 months, somewhere in that range, in order for doing something with no corrupt intent whatsoever. And what the government did, I think, which was sleazy, was they picked a series of cases, about 8 of them, I guess, in which people who had exceeded the campaign finance limits did get prison time. But in every single one of those cases, there was corruption. In one case, someone had done it before. In another case, they were trying to buy certain types of appointments or get certain kinds of kickbacks. So what the government did was carefully omit the evidence of corruption from their description of the legal cases to fool the judge into thinking that this was normal to send people like me to prison, but the scheme didn't work. The judge saw through it, and so the government tried to send me to prison, and a federal judge, a Democratic appointee, looked him in the eye and basically said no.
Dinesh, what does it feel like to be a guy who is as successful as you are, to be a good guy, not a guy who, you're not Bill Ayers, and you're sitting there and you're watching a judge and a federal prosecutor trying to put you in prison? You could have gone to prison yesterday. What was going through your mind? What does that feel like?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's an extremely eerie feeling. I've been through, it's been a traumatic event. I won't deny it. And I think a lot of it actually goes right back to my understanding of the character of Obama. I was down in Kenya. I got to meet his family. He's a very dysfunctional guy with a very dysfunctional family. He's got family members that have each other followed. They spread rumors and they try to undermine each other. They hire people to look out. And so this is a very bizarre situation. And Obama is a petty, vindictive guy. Right after I made 2016, he launched a raging attack against me on his personal website, BarackObama.com. So I don't have to speculate that he doesn't like me. I know that. Now, the question here is that, the government was going all out on this. And it's hard for me to believe that they were treating me normally, like any other guy who did this. And that's all I was saying to the judge. I wasn't saying I don't deserve a penalty. I was saying give me the same penalty as any other guy in my situation who is not a public critic of the Obama administration.
So you're going when? When do you have to report to this community?
Well, this is all being unfolded. There's a hearing in about 2 weeks to kind of with an update. And so all of this will unfold. But basically, Glenn, look, this is what my penalty is, a community center for a few months. I've got to teach English to immigrants. I'm an immigrant. I went through a very moving citizenship ceremony in 1991. By the way, I'm not teaching illegals. I'm teaching naturalized American citizens how to assimilate better into American life. That's not a punishment.
Can I tell you something?
That's a pleasure.
I wish somebody would teach it to illegals. I wish you were teaching it to illegals, because maybe if you were teaching it to illegals, maybe they would say, you know what, I want to do this the right way. I want to come back. I want to go back out and do this the right way, because this is worth doing the right way. But anyway, so Dinesh, what do you take away from this, and what is the lesson that we should learn?
Well, right now I feel a little bit, Winston Churchill had a very funny line about the Boer War. He said, it is always exhilarating to be shot at without result. And I feel right now that the U.S. government made an attempt to really knock me down for the count. And they would have. If I was locked up for 16 months, it's not like I couldn't write a memoir or something. But the bottom line of it is, it'd be very difficult for me to function normally, and I certainly wouldn't have been able to make a film for the election year 2016, because I wouldn't get out until the end of next year. So I was worried that this would actually immobilize me from my work. But happily, with what I have now, a fair penalty for what I did, I'll be able to pay my debt to society, I'll be able to write my books, and I'm going to make a big film for the presidential election year.
I'm just trying to get a sense here, Dinesh, that's really, really clear. You have to have said, what was I thinking? It's like Martha Stewart. What the hell was I thinking? And I understand that you didn't have any ill intent or anything else, but you do regret all of this.
Oh, not only do I regret it, first of all, the decision I made to help Wendy Long, I made almost in the spur of the moment. It's something that I did almost spontaneously, and I've regretted it ever since. I've paid a very high price for it in legal fees, enormous amounts of time. The government raiding my bank records and peering into my life in an unbelievable way. So this has been a difficult experience, but, I'm trying to draw a very positive lesson out of it and say, Glenn, look, I'm such a lucky guy. I'm one of the few guys who was raised in a remote corner of the world and got to come to America. My first book, A Liberal Education, was a runaway success. My first movie was the #2 most successful documentary movie ever made. I've had a lot of very positive, lucky breaks. You could almost say life has been unfairly good to me. And I was trying to say to myself, well, you know what? If they lock me up, I think it'll be unfair. but it's the kind of unfairness I can live with. I've had so much unfairness on the positive side, and maybe a little unfairness on the negative side, but amazingly, the people praying for me, supporting me, that worked. Because what I got was a penalty proportioned to what I did. The Obama administration, the government tried to get me and failed.
Dinesh, I'm so glad to hear your attitude, and I'm so glad to talk to you today, and I wish you all the best, and there are millions of Americans that are praying for you and looking forward to the film that will come out before the next election. Thank you so much, Dinesh.
Glenn, always a pleasure.
God bless you.
Of course, the last movie, America, Imagine a World Without Her.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I think he's great.
I do too.
I've always liked Dinesh, and I like him even more now because his attitude is right where you'd like it to be.
I like the fact that he pleaded guilty, owned up to it, and was like, "Yep, this is what I did." And there's one thing to say I've been wrong. I do believe he was wronged. I do believe he was targeted.
Of course he was.
Of
course he was. But
the bad thing is
using that as an excuse.
He's not using it as an excuse.
Yeah.
That's the good thing.
Yeah.
He was targeted. But this is something we talked about.
If
you're doing something wrong, they will find out. And it doesn't have to be intentional. It doesn't have to be anything that big. They will take the smallest thing and they will twist it and make it look horrible.
And look at this.
Horrible.
It's when you think of it in the scheme of things and you put this into perspective, it's a pretty small thing. He donated a little more money than he should have to a campaign. So what? That's his First Amendment right. First of all, there shouldn't be that law in the first place, and we all know it.
But there is.
But the other thing is, there is that law. But it's really in the scope of things. It's a pretty minor infraction. He didn't. It's a victimless crime. No one was hurt, but he knows it. He understands it,
and he's paying
suffering
the
consequences,
and he's doing it with a glad heart.
Yeah, and
I think that's great.
He was very fortunate that the judge was a reasonable guy.
Yeah, he'll come back out he'll come back out a better man.
Yeah,
truly a better man.
He probably already is.
You can't go through that.
Yeah,
and you know what I'm thinking. This is the first real political prisoner that I have seen this president make. Or this country do this time around, besides those who are journalists, And in a way, Dinesh is a journalist. Now, this is a little dicey because, it's not like he's Martin Luther King who was just speaking out. He did something wrong.
Yeah.
But this is a political prisoner, make no mistake. He was only prosecuted. They only found this stuff because they were going through everything to stop him.
No question.
And it's sick. It's really sick. Did you see the thing from Lois Lerner? The Politico?
Yeah.
I've got to talk about this later on today because in going over what she said in Politico, it's despicable and disgusting. Really disgusting.
It's really bad. We talked about it yesterday.
It's beyond imagination.
It is.
It's really beyond imagination. These guys are living in a parallel universe.
Yes, they are.
And they're dragging us all along with it.